I'm going to try to make quick work of this today. I've got this Nintendo DS Lite that was sent in by a viewer for repair. Say hello to my cat, Kiwi. She's sitting in my drum throne. She's going to be our support tech today. So she's just going to hang out here while I do the important work. So let's pull this DS apart. And I know the charging port is bad. Let's look at the charging port. And I know that the power switch is not working. There's a bit of plastic that's completely gone. So we're going to have to pull this thing apart. Let me get the motherboard out and we'll see what's going on with the power switch as well. So took the battery out and I can already tell that this has been opened. There's a screw missing here. Or at least this is the wrong screw. And then there was a screw missing up here. This is not the right screw at all. It's like a tri-wing screw. I don't think that'll damage anything. Let's keep moving on. So the power switch has been broken clean off. It's supposed to be a little knob here. And it's gone. So that's not going to be any good. I'll have to replace that switch. I'll have to see what's going on with the rest of the board as well. Volume slider looks good. That charging port is not looking too hot. So let's go ahead and just remove the board completely and we'll inspect it, just make sure everything looks good, and we'll be right back. Here's the top display ribbon cable. It's looking good. From what I can tell, the device won't boot without the top screen attached, unless you're going to bypass it with like a resistor. Definitely has been installed a long time. I don't think that's been touched before. And let's just be thorough. We'll inspect all the connectors. This is for the touch display. Looks good. And we'll look at the connector for the top display. And that looks good. So let's move on to testing a few other components before we start doing any work. We're just going to be thorough. We're going to check all the fuses and we'll check the filters. And then we'll go ahead and do the port replacement. So I'm just going to check this fuse first. Let's see. That's good. How about this filter? Good. Good. And there's another fuse right in here. I've seen the flux over here cause shorts before. So let's go ahead and test this fuse. And that's good. Battery connector looks good. No indication of water damage, so that's awesome. I don't think we're going to have any issues with this console booting, unless there's something wrong with the CPU or otherwise. So let's go ahead and move on to the next step. I think what I'd like to do is take care of this power switch first. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply some low melt solder to it and then just knock it off. It's not going to be too much of a big deal with the low melt solder. I just don't want to put a lot of heat on this side. There's this little plastic component here. Which it also looks like this leg is not exactly soldered down thoroughly. So I think I might go over those shoulder buttons as well. But let's just do one thing at a time. Let me get my low melt. And I'll get my liquid flux. Let me give the area just a quick scrub with some alcohol. Okay. And then let's go ahead and put some flux down. And fume extractor is on, full blast. Let's go ahead and take care of this. Just one pin. Just gotta be careful, just try not to touch anything else. Especially that shoulder button. Oops. Got it on that component. That's fine. See if I could just push this off. There we go. No pads lifted or anything. Good deal. And now we gotta clean this off. Where is my solder wick? There it is. Actually, turn this around. My soldering iron temperature is at 385 Celsius, and I'm using this curved tip. Let me take care of the excess solder on this. I'll come back and I'll put some regular unleaded on there as well. And I'm just going over lightly. No pressure, just gliding over the pads. Now, getting the part off our donor board is what it's gonna be a little tricky. Let's see if we could just get a better angle here. Looks good. Let's clean this off. And then I'll get our donor board. And we'll get our new part, or replacement part. Okay, so I've kind of got one shot at this. I don't want to melt this tab. That's the power button. So I'm gonna need to add heat kind of away from the edge of the board. I've got my hot air at 385 Celsius, and I'm gonna come up to the edge of the board, and I'm just gonna start heating. This is my donor board, so I'm not too concerned about the other components on here, but I do want to get this power switch nice and clean. So I've got the heat right up next to the board. Just going back and forth. I'm being really careful to direct the heat away from that edge so I'm not melting that little nub. That's the part that's broken on the original Switch, and I would hate to break it again. Then have to order a Switch or use one from another console or something. It'd just be better all around if we don't have to do that. So I'm just heating it from the back of the board. Go. Stubborn. There we go. We'll let that cool for a second. And we'll get this part onto the new board. I mean the board we're trying to fix. Alright, let's look at our replacement part underneath. Looks good. Maybe a little toasted right there. No big deal. It's still fully functional, I think. Let's test it. Yeah, still got the spring. Beautiful. So what do you say we go ahead and put this in place? Just kind of sits in like that. I'm just gonna dab some flux on there. We'll just do these back ones, and then we'll come around and we'll do the other part. So let me grab my iron. I'm just going to tack it in place using the solder that's already there. Oops, that's fine. And now let's grab our leaded solder. We'll come into each one of these at a time. One. Two. I'm heating the pad and the pin at the same time. 3. 4. Let's turn this around and we'll do the other side. I think I'm going to do this side first. Let me actually put some solder on this capacitor too. That was one I touched with the low melt. Beautiful. Gonna turn this 90 degrees because this little part was popping up. So I'm gonna put some solder on my tip and I'm gonna press this down. Got junk all over my soldering iron tip. Just a second here. Let me try flowing some solder in first. And now let me come in. I'm going to press. Cool, that's not going anywhere. So we got our new our new power switch in place by soldering only in the hot air to remove the old part. The replacement part, donor part. Let's turn our focus to this guy right here. I think what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing with the low melt solder. You might even be able to just do this from the bottom. Let's try that. Flux all around. Let's do this low melt solder again. Usually you can just knock these off because it's just the 2 pins. It's just ground and power. And then see this ground line, it's all connected? The heat's just going to flow right through all of it. Look, it's already loose. Yep. Let's see if we can get that part off. There you go. Super simple port removal. Anyone can do it if you have the right tools and your temperature's not too crazy, you're not going to burn anything. Let's throw that port away. Gonna throw away this old power switch. Thank you. And let's wick it off. These should all be through hole. There's 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 5. Beautiful. Let's clean that, put the new port on, and then we could test if it's even charging or even accepting voltage. Flip this over. Look at that. Beautiful. It's easier the second time. That's for sure. I'm going to put this on the board holder so the pins have a place to go underneath the board instead of sitting against the silicone mat I have. So let me set this up and I'll be right back. Alright. Here is our new port. Isn't that beautiful? I want to make sure it's pressed down firmly. I think what I'll do, grab my fresh solder. I'm going to just scrape off my soldering iron tip. I'm going to get a little bit on my iron. Let me kind of press this down. I may need some more. I'm just doing that one, and I know it's lifted up a little bit right now, but watch if I heat this and I press down. It'll let me wiggle it around a little bit before I do the other legs. Let's go ahead and check to make sure it is flat against the board. And that's looking good. So I think what I'll do now is I can flip this over and we'll take care of those other legs. You can see where I got the one leg, so let's do the opposite leg. Ain't that beautiful? Now let's do this opposite leg. And we'll do this top leg. And finally we'll redo this bottom leg. And we got to be careful with these two because this can melt the inside of the connector. So we're just going to be real quick. Boom. That's it. Just double check that connector is completely flat. Looks great, brand new. Let's go to our overhead. So here's the board. Let me go ahead and plug in a charger and we'll see if it's working. I've got a little bit of a project mess going on right now, typical. Here's our DS Lite charger. It's original. I use it for my personal one. And the orange light should just come on and then turn off if it's working. Oh yeah. Cool, so power's coming through, the charging circuit's probably working. If there was no light, that's what I would be concerned about. Let's go ahead and fully reassemble and test. Before I forget, I actually wanted to do this shoulder button as well because it looked like it was coming up. So we're just going to be quick with here as well. I might have to add a little bit more solder here. Just because it was coming loose, and I know that these can fall off. And if I see the issue, I want to take responsibility for it. Especially with something like this, it only takes a second or so to do. And the customer appreciates it. I would appreciate it. You know, if someone saw this and they didn't do anything, they didn't, hey, it's already open, it's here, so why not just take care of it? Look at that. It's solid now. And I can do the same thing for the other switch. Let me just look at the back as well. And I'll touch up these pins. That's that. All right. It's charging. And it powers on. And sound works. The bottom screen's kind of yellow. Let me see if I can. It's hard to tell from here, but the bottom screen is a little yellowed. See if I could show you under the microscope. And it's got this kind of yellow tinge to it. This is just the LCD. Sometimes it just gets like that. It's not unplayable or anything. And how about games? Does it load games? Where are my test games? I've got Super Mario 64 over here somewhere. There we go. I gotta finish the setup prompt. It is the year 2000, according to this DS now. I just want to see if games play, and then I'll do the full reassembly and test of the shoulder buttons and things like that. I'll also put Banjo-Kazooie in the Game Boy slot. Let's turn it on and see. Super Mario 64 DS shows up. No Game Boy game. Says there's a DS option pack inserted. Try one more time. Doesn't seem like it's loading the Game Boy games. There we go. Sometimes if the pins haven't been used in a long time, it'll be a little dusty and maybe a little bit of oxidation. Just scrapes right off. Cool. I'm happy with that. So that's pretty much it for this fix. I mean, the rest is just a reassembly, putting it all back together. This console is charging again. It's got a new power switch, and it'll be ready to be sent back to the customer, and you'll be very happy. If you do need a repair like this, I offer very reasonable prices for these types of repairs. Just shoot me an email. I got all the information in the description below. Reach out if you need a repair on anything. Let me know, and I'll be happy to work with you. All right, have a good one. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.